Hey guys, welcome back to Hands On Channel. Today we're going to get right into this thing. It's called Deciphering Doublespeak and Euphemisms. And for a while now, I've been talking about doublespeak, and I figured it's about time I explain what I mean by that and hopefully try to provide some definitions and shed some light on this honestly very deceptive and downright evil language that many people in our media especially have used. They use it on a regular basis, man. I mean, they use this stuff daily. So I'm hoping that you guys will glean some info from this, and maybe the next time you're watching the mainstream talking heads, flapping their gums on TV about some BS that doesn't mean anything, you'll be able to look back to this and go, oh, hey, wait a minute. I remember that's a euphemism for something else, or that's doublespeak for something else. So let's get right into this. Deciphering Doublespeak and Euphemisms. The first definition is an excerpt from the book Beyond 1984 by William Lutz, and I highly recommend you check it out. It had a lot of great information in it. Doublespeak is language which pretends to communicate but really does not. It is a language which makes the bad seem good, something negative appear positive, and something unpleasant appear attractive, or at very least tolerable. It is a language which avoids or shifts responsibility, language which is at variance with its real meaning. It is a language which conceals or prevents thought. Doublespeak is a language which does not extend thought, but limits it. There are 10 different types of doublespeak used by the left, and honestly, I had no idea there were 10 different kinds. I knew there was about 4 or 5, but several of these I never thought about. Number 1 is a euphemism, and this is a very common one. An expression that avoids mentioning an unpleasant reality. For example, the use of the word conflict instead of war, safe space instead of run to mommy's bosom. Number 2, jargon. Jargon is a vocabulary from a specific field or group that creates confusion if the person is not acquainted with such language. For example, the use of military acronyms amongst civilians. Another example is the way lawyers use legalese to talk over most people's heads. Gobbledygook. These are long phrases that do not convey any meaning. For example, it's a tricky problem to find the particular calibration and timing that would be appropriate to stem acceleration. Exaggerations include inflated language, overstatements, and intensifiers to make ordinary things seem extraordinary. The speaker tends to exaggerate statements to persuade the audience of the speaker's positive attributes or the opponent's faults. For example, the use of extreme adjectives like exorbitant, terrible, or huge may indicate inflated statements. The Republicans are not exempt from this. President Trump uses exaggerations all the time. He likes to say, oh yeah, this is going to be the biggest, boldest, best wall in the world. So, the Republicans do use some of this stuff too. But the real truth of all this deal, and the reason I'm making this video, is because the left has mastered this doublespeak language, and they've been using it for a long, long time. The Republicans have just recently kind of started to come on board on this. I don't like to see it from either side. I want to have somebody shoot straight with me, tell it like it is, not dress it up with a whole bunch of BS to make it sound better and more palatable. No, thank you. I want the truth. Minimizations are understatements used to downplay the speaker's negative attributes. For example, statements that contain expressions like, it's just, or practically nothing, or not a big deal. Minimizations are also used to downplay the opponent's positive attributes. So especially in debates, we see a lot of this, minimizations being used. Repetitions are messages that are intensified through the use of reiteration and redundancy. For example, political slogans are simplifications of ideas, which if repeated often enough may become part of people's beliefs. Association, a strategy that links a person with an idea, attribute, or a known figure through metaphors, allusions, and similes. Diversion, techniques that help to stray from or change the focus of a topic in the absence of a valid argument. For example, criticism, interruptions, and humor are used to direct the attention of the audience or the opponent candidate to a different topic. And how many times have you seen this? It's basically like changing the subject is another way of putting this. Someone will be right in the middle of making a really great point, and they're just about to put the period on the end of it and, bring their whole point to light so that you can see what they're trying to say. And then suddenly, boom, we got to go to the next person. We got to cut you off. We got to divert the topic, change the topic to something else because we don't want you to make that point. That happens very often. Meaningless promises. In this analysis, claims made by the speaker or benefit giver are limited to promises that are too general, broad, or ambiguous. For example, the speaker may promise to defeat poverty, or, end world hunger, or get us off the, foreign oil supplies, and, all this other stuff that we've been promised over the years that are just basically these broad, ambiguous statements. They never tell us what the plan is and how they're actually going to achieve that thing. They just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Ridiculous. Labeling is abstract or double standard concepts that could hide biased attitudes or political agendas. For example, different ideologies may be represented in expressions such as global warming and climate change. So here's some bullet points I pulled out here, just some brief examples. Democrats frequently refer to themselves as liberals or progressives, and they avoid using the less pleasant but more accurate terms communist, socialist, or leftists. The term abortion, euthanasia, and assisted suicide are all euphemisms for murder, the immoral and selective taking of a human life. Pro-choice is a euphemism for pro-abortion or even pro-murder. Reproductive rights and women's health care are euphemisms for abortion. Marriage equality is a euphemism for taking away the male-female requirement out of the definition of marriage. Undocumented immigrant is a euphemism for illegal alien. Leftists frequently use the term pro-immigrant as a euphemism for supporting mass immigration and open borders. And it's not just leftists, it's rhinos too. Immigration reform is a vague euphemism leftists and rhinos use for amnesty for illegal aliens, opening the doors to legal mass migration, open borders. The term gun reform and school safety, among other similar terms, are euphemisms for gun control and even gun confiscation through weapons bans by anti-gun liberal commie politicians. Corporate social responsibility is a euphemism for liberal corporate tyranny and political power. Progress is a euphemism for creeping socialism. Free trade is frequently used by globalists as a euphemism for highly regulated and sovereignty-reducing trade agreements. Freedom, when used by leftists, generally acts as a euphemism for socialism, communism, or even anarchy, and has been this way since at least the French Revolution. In addition, it is often used by leftists in a false dichotomy when claiming the other option is fascism, as well as implying the latter occurs when people give up freedom. And by the way, especially the hardcore leftists, the socialist Democrats, whatever you want to call them, the communists on the left, they love to call other people fascists, when in reality, they are the fascists. It's just kind of funny how they turn the definition around 180 degrees many times. Protest and free speech, when used by leftists, generally indicates rioting, and in some cases making a bold-faced lie and claiming them to be truth. Similarly, democracy, especially when used with terms mass, participatory, and or claiming it's on the streets, generally alludes to rioting and engaging in street fights against political opponents, as well as disrupting them. And if you don't remember, before the 2016 election, many of the Trump rallies, protesters came out and blocked off the streets and were beating on people's cars and stuff like that as they're driving down the road trying to get to this Trump rally. They would come in and block them off, and that is not democracy. Let the people go to the rally they want to go to. Why are you trying to restrict their access to democracy, which is what you guys love to tout as the whole best part of the United States of America? Although, as I said in another video, we are a republic, not a pure democracy. And there's a huge difference. Conservationism and environmental protection are used by leftists as euphemisms for environmentalism, or basically taking away all your liberty in the name of, saving the earth from some made up BS that supposedly 99.9% of the scientists believe, but that's not true at all. Women's rights and women's liberation are euphemisms for feminism, and might I add, militant feminism. Cognitive decline replaced dementia when referring to Democratic presidential nominee Sleepy Joe Biden. All right, next up, we're going to read some that I found off of ultimac.com. It's called Left Speak, a glossary of terms. And I only probably get about half of them on there. I didn't do them all because the video would be too long. And these are honorable mentions that would be funny if they weren't true. So, arsenal. What is an arsenal when you hear the media say that on TV? Oh, he had an arsenal. It's plural of any firearm. So, if the guy has a 22 and a 12 gauge and, a couple boxes ammo, then they're going to say on the news that he had an arsenal. Also, see stockpile. That's another thing they like to say. Assault weapon. Any semi-auto sporting rifle or hunting rifle. So it doesn't matter if it's a 10/22. They'll call it an assault weapon if they think it'll make the news sell. Border security. That's racism. Capitalism. See greed. Climate change. Same as global warming, climate change is slightly more flexible in that no matter what happens, it's bad. Liberty is to blame, of course, and socialism, as for all things, is the only solution. Giving all of our power over to the one world order, that's the only way we're going to be able to solve this whole global warming problem we're in. Meanwhile, they'll come and, send us to concentration camps, people like me that don't buy into this communist BS. Okay, so compassion. Deep, warm, heartfelt desire for government intervention against one's neighbors, primarily used to describe the Democrat rhino socialist agenda or communist. And they're interchangeable. Communism and socialism are not very much different. I mean, there are minor differences between the two, like where the political power comes from, but other than that, communism has a centralized political party or a dictator or a tyrant ruling over them or an authoritarian ruling over them. Usually it goes down to one single person, like Xi Jinping. Yeah, that's right. I can't say his name, nor do I want to. Divisiveness, speaking ill or disagreeing with socialists or socialism. Economic justice, socialism. Fearmonger, one who disagrees with socialist or socialism, specifically one who tries to warn others about the dangers of socialism and the erosion or loss of liberty. Global community, the UN communist form of a world government, another way of saying NWO. It'll be a new world order, George H.W. Bush said. It'll be a new world order. Well, not as long as I'm breathing air. Greed, striving to produce a valuable product and service for one's fellow man and delivering them through peaceable voluntary exchange as the means of elevating one's standards of living and or satisfying one's self-interests. See, they call that greed. And we call it capitalism. We call it trying to make our lives better by going out and working hard and, accepting the rewards from our hard work. Gun violence. Anytime a shooting takes place, even if it's used legally for self-defense. Yes, that's right. Even if they use it legally in a self-defense situation, maybe a bad guy breaks into the house, he's going to, hurt your wife or hurt your family, and he's threatening you, and you have to use a gun, and you actually have to shoot that person. Well, they're going to call it gun violence. A terrible case of gun violence happened out blah, blah, blah today because, some homeowner decided he was going to shoot some guy because he was trying to steal his TV. And that's basically how stupid they are. Multicultural. Any culture but the American culture, i.e. anti-American. The term is also used to indicate to other leftists that the speaker believes Judeo-Christian and capitalist basis of America must be overridden with cultures from every unsuccessful backwater shithole country on the planet, thereby delivering us into a global community. No thanks. I prefer American sovereignty and individual liberty and self-governance. That's the way I'm going to stick with. New Deal. Socialist revolution. Example, FDR gave us the New Deal, which will ensure fairness and social justice. Complete bullcrap. Open mind. One that embraces socialism as the answer to all things without question. Yeah, you're going to be considered open-minded if you're going around some socialists and, you're basically lapping up everything they have to say and you're like, oh, I love socialism. I love communism. I just wish the Americans would just understand how good it is and wonderful it is. If you say that kind of stuff, they're going to be like, oh, he is so open-minded. We love him. He is so open, or her, or whatever. Profit. Probably the filthiest term in left speak. Profit defines value that is stolen from an unsuspecting victim of innovation and productivity and then hoarded for the purpose of toying with less fortunate as a means of entertainment. Progressive. That's a socialist. It was once widely believed that progress was which improved our productivity potential, opportunity, and standard of living. In left speak, it means a return to the statist, totalitarian, collectivist system under which people have suffered for thousands of years. Like many of the terms they use, the left has turned this one around exactly 180 degrees. 100 million people were killed from communism. Rich, better off than someone else. So when you hear the left say rich, that means they're better off than someone else and having achieved this status by their own efforts without the involvement of socialists or socialism. And they can't have that. They don't want people succeeding without their help. Safety. Existence under strict government oversight and control. Some examples are airline safety, school safety, home safety, gun safety, workplace safety. Scientist. Increasingly, this term is used to silence all discussion, debate, and especially divisiveness. In this sense, a scientist is one who is enlisted by a government interest to place a stamp of approval under the guise of irrefutability on the socialist programs or laws. Example, any legitimate scientist will tell you that man-made global warming is a clear and present danger and that our safety must be ensured through swift legislative action in cooperation with the global community. Sniper rifle. Any rifle or musket. Sustainable. Under never-ending complete government control. And that's why I'm so against sustainable development, is because that's what that means. They're going to take away your sovereignty and they're going to put in world orders that basically you have to follow. And if you don't, then I don't know what'll happen. The world police will come and get you. I don't know. Not in the country I live in, but that's what they're trying to push it to. Tolerance. The free and unopposed reign of socialists and socialism. Failure to tolerate socialists and socialism is something that should not and will not be tolerated. Universal health care, socialized medicine, i.e. socialism, sometimes called single payer. We, W-E, we socialists, we the collective. This is a subtle term, but it has a powerful meaning. Saying we this and we that reinforces the collective thinking of the progressives, a bit like a mantra, while ignoring any sense of self or self-interest or sovereignty. In closing, guys, I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote from the movie V for Vendetta. Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there? Cruelty, injustice, intolerance, and oppression, and where once you had the freedom to object, to think, to speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission. How did this happen? Who is to blame? Well, certainly there are those more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you only need to look into a mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Guys, don't let these liberals rob you of your common sense. Stand up, learn doublespeak, learn about the founding of this country and the way it's supposed to be, self-governance, individual liberty. And guys, as you know, as I've said before, I stand for liberty, and I hope you do too. So please hit the thumbs up, share these videos, because otherwise YouTube squashes content like this. They don't like stuff that goes against the mainstream narrative. So please help get this out there. I think it's an important message. And until next time, we'll see you later.